Good morning. Thank you very much for coming. This is not my normal voice, as you can tell, probably, so please bear with me. Thank you, Jan, for the introduction. I believe when I say we are a technology company, our CEO just proved that that's true, because it was very technical and very informative. Thank you. I'm going to talk about biometrics becoming mainstream technology, because as we know, it's been very much a domain of law enforcement and government. 40 years ago, when the first biometric solutions were deployed, they were mostly focusing on civil registries and law enforcement. And still this day, there is a long discussion and philosophical dilemma whether biometrics is good or bad or evil. Does it help people? Does it help the government? Is it democratic? Etc. We are trying to bring it to the mainstream, and we are trying to bring in the products that are helping people, that are helping masses. So, as I said, this was the legacy. This was where the biometrics has started, and it has been indeed very helpful to governments and law enforcement offices. And about 15 years ago, it finally started to help regular people and citizens and travelers. The examples you can see here are from travel industry, where we have e-gates that work with passports and let you go through without the personal check. We have biometric-enabled smartphones where you can unlock your phone and basically protect your data without entering any PIN code or password. We have time attendance systems, we have access control systems, and this is where we started to think, how can we bring the technology we are developing to the mass market, and how do we grow outside of the government customers, which has been for decades our most important segment where we were focusing. So it all starts with technology that Jan was talking about and with the portfolio of new products. Our core flagship product used to be ABIS, and it still is. And we brought up new technologies and new products that are basically focusing on solving problems of retail, enterprise, banking industries, and we have been bringing them to these customers. So first subject, first subject is remote identity verification, which is actually a technology which enables a remote verification of a user without ever meeting them in person. What are the typical use cases? That would be customer registration or enrollment. We have been lucky enough to develop this technology before the COVID stroke, and we have had some brave customers that were willing to deploy this technology before COVID, which was a great proof of concept. And so when the pandemic struck, we already had a ready-to-go solution, which pretty much helped us to save the day, because there was an increasing demand in need for remote customer verification, which was mainly used by banks, like I said. So this has enabled the banks to enroll and register new clients remotely without ever getting in the personal touch with them. The second large segment was telco industry, where by mandate they have to register the buyers of new SIM cards, and that was typically happening in person at the store, and we enabled these telcos to do this remotely via the same technology. So I was able to buy a SIM card or an eSIM card remotely and register myself and receive the card in mail. Another big subject, especially in the European Union, are digital certificates, which are valid as your signature. So you can actually interact with institutions, with governments through digital certificates which serve as your signature, and you can perform legal actions and transactions. And these certificates can also be issued using remote biometrics identity verification, so you don't really have to show your personal ID or passport to any governmental body. And last but not least, a very popular subject is employee onboarding. So onboarding new employees to an employer or company can be done remotely, which was really, again, helpful during the pandemic times. One very interesting example where we perform remote identity verification is ride-hailing. The customer called Karim, which is now owned by Uber from Middle East. They are ensuring the passenger safety through the random verification of the driver, because the problem that they've been addressing a lot was they issued license to a driver that then borrowed this license to their friends, and they were not checked, against the criminal registry, and there actually could have been difficult people that were harassing the customers and passengers. So Karim has deployed a technology which randomly asks the driver to look into the smartphone. We check their presence, their face, and make sure that a legitimate driver is basically providing the service. Karim is also providing e-wallet services. As you know, these big car-sharing companies like Karim or Uber, they are trying to aggregate more services into their application, some of which are digital transactions or e-wallet. And again, the wallet can be locked up or locked with your face, unlocked with your face, so no PIN is required. And again, they're using our biometric technology to do all this.
The documents. Using your phone back camera, scan your passport so we can verify your identity. For the best scan, ensure there is no glare or shadows on the passport. Face capture. Ensure your face is fully visible. Remove glasses or hair that falls across your face. Take in a well-lit place without direct light or shadows on your face. Take against a light colored and plain background. Keep your eyes open with a neutral expression.
This is a nice example of the same technology, remote identity verification for the governmental services, specifically e-visa issuance. This is our deployment in Saudi Arabia, where the government is issuing visa remotely, electronic visa that is, based on the similar process that is used for instance, bank onboarding. All these examples I'm mentioning here are basically real-life scenarios that we have delivered and deployed. And we have a set of demos back there, which you're welcome to check out after the presentations, which are showing off all these technologies I'm talking about. So governmental services such as e-visa or maybe interaction with the e-government portals, where you have to sign up and log in and you want to perform some transactions that are legally binding, can also be secured by the biometric technology that we do provide. When I said at the beginning that biometrics has been perceived as a niche technology, it's no longer true. And a lot of investments are being done into biometric platforms, primarily digital identity, which is basically a digital onboarding or remote identity verification. As you can see, in 2022, just for the first quarter of this year, more than $1 billion have been invested into startups that are focusing solely on remote identity verification. Last year, it's been more than $4 billion. That is all revolving around biometrics and around identity verification. That's incredible amount of investment given the niche profile of the technology itself. We are proud to announce that we actually have not been funded in any way or form. Our development and sales has been growing and financed organically, so we still remain independent of all the investors and the markets. Another segment of solutions that we provide, or technology that can be used in real life, is real-time facial identification. There's several use cases that are leveraging and benefiting from this technology, and I want to mention some of the obscure ones, or interesting ones, so to say. The first one is the school attendance check in Brazil. The educational system in Brazil is suffering from lack of attendance. In the rural areas, kids are not really visiting the schools and the classrooms. They're helping families, and then there's a high level of illiteracy in Brazil. And so there's a lot of investment done into this presence check or attendance check. So the government is trying to ensure that children are indeed attending the classes. So the technology that we have delivered is simplifying the presence check in a very usable way or form, I would say. The teacher at the beginning of the class, all they need to do is take a photo of the classroom, or two photos, left and right side of the classroom. The system is immediately checking the presence of the faces. Not only do we count the number of children in the classroom, we actually check whether the kids that are sitting in the classroom are those that should be there, and whether there is no one that shouldn't be there, for instance, because that was happening a lot. You know, the siblings were visiting the school on behalf of their brother or sister just to be there present, and biometrics can ensure that we really have those kids that we need to have in the classroom. This is a very interesting use case of facial recognition. Another solution that we are helping with is smart buildings, which means you can not only enable the building to perform a smart access control based on facial recognition, so when you enter the building you do not need to touch anything, you don't need to carry any ID card, enter the PIN code. The system recognizes your face and it automatically lets you enter the premises. It can control call the elevator, for instance. So the elevator comes in and brings you to the floor that you were supposed to be at. It can measure the interaction between people and employees, who talks to whom, how often. It can generate heat maps. Where do people typically aggregate? Where do they spend most of the time? It can measure the occupancy of the meeting rooms. This is all possible through facial recognition and facial identification, and no other hardware is required to do all these functionalities. Again, Jan was already mentioning this. Liveness detection is critical, so making sure that the person entering the premises, for instance, is alive. They are a live human being and they are not carrying a photograph of their colleague, because that wouldn't be very secure. And we do that even on the access control systems. This video here is a typical user experience of how you enter the premises. So as you can see, the person walked through, he walks back, and the cameras on the right-hand side are scanning his face, recognizing the person, are letting him through. This is as seamless as it gets. You don't really need to stop by. You don't need to interact with any device. You don't need to push any buttons. You just walk through the gates because the system knows you. Another use case for facial recognition is public security. This is a solution that can or tends to be unpopular, because what we are doing, we are checking the presence of people in the general audience, and we are trying to find faces that are on some special watch list, for instance. So let's imagine we have a list of Interpol criminals that are wanted. We are monitoring the public metro station or airport, and we can in real time detect people that are not supposed to be there or that are being searched for, in which case we can really prevent the crime before it happens, because we see and identify these people in real time. We can also do this as an offline video investigation. So we can basically look through the recorded footage from an incident. We can analyze the faces, and we can look for those faces that are suspicious. And what is important, the accuracy is stunning. This image here is a real-life example of facial detection and recognition where I was working in their offices. So that face here, the upper face, is actually face taken by the camera against the reference image on the watch list. And you see I had a high score, and the system has identified me in such a bad quality and light conditions. Another use case is typically gaming. You have a lot of situations where you don't want to, or you have to prohibit people from entering the casinos and premises because they're banned. They are being treated for gaming addiction. And again, we have deployments in Australia and other countries where our system is basically checking every visitor, every guest, every player and gamer entering the premises, and the system will actually let you know when the customer is not supposed to be inside. It's a lot of new products that you see we're doing with the technology that has been presented by Jan. And it's not all. There is so many more ideas that we have and then that we want to pursue. And those are so complex and so different that we don't want to be distracted at our company with all them, but we want to make them happen. We want to execute them, for which we have founded an entity called Biometric Ventures, which is, let's say, a technological incubator, an investment attempt to help develop ideas that are leveraging computer vision or facial recognition or biometrics in general, and are diversifying into the new segments and new products. We are already financing 2 of these activities that we have identified as commercially viable. The first one, Identify. It's a system which basically helps the elderly care. So we are detecting the behavior of people in nursing houses, at home, at different premises, and we are trying to detect unusual situations. The most critical incident that happens with elderly people is they fall down, they cannot stand up. And this is something that can be easily recognizable by the computer vision and AI, and we deliver and we develop the solution that is doing just this. So if you look at this image here, picture, the person is being analyzed by the camera. We see their body movements, and we see their fall. And from the privacy perspective, this is the most important thing. We really do not care about the actual look and feel of the person or their appearance. We only care about their body parts and their movement. So once again, if I scroll this back, we can detect unusual behavior. We can detect falls of the people. We can warn the nurse or the family and parents, and we can immediately call for help. This is all possible just through the computer vision. There is no special hardware required, such as a smartwatch or some buttons that people are typically wearing. Another solution that we are sponsoring and hosting by Biometric Ventures is all called AgeWare, which is a system that is checking person's age based on their appearance. So all you need is to take a selfie, and our algorithm will detect and estimate your age and basically enable for further service or interaction. This is specifically important for online services where the age is of interest. This is also possible to deploy, and we have customers implementing this in vending machines, for instance. So you can have vending machines out in the street that are disposing alcohol or cigarettes. And we are right now working with a company that is going to deploy this in a self-checkout registers at stores. So, the self-service at Tesco, where you're checking out, you have a bottle of wine, you cannot actually complete the transaction because the service has to come and enable it for you. This is going to be automated by the facial recognition and age estimation technology. So Biometric Ventures is a way to invest into different ideas, and we are open to new submissions and new concepts, and we will definitely proceed financing even more creative ideas, and which are basically leveraging the biometric system and solutions. And with that, I would like to thank you again for coming, and I will see you in the afternoon dinner. Thank you very much.
Peter, the voice is tough, huh?
Bad.
Yes. So no more questions for you. I don't want to make you struggle. It's just yes or no. Having fun so far?
Big time. Thank you.
Okay, good. Looking forward to the next 2 days.
Thanks a lot.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.